How dare you? This entire proceeding is a joke, and you know it. You have no right to sit in judgment of me.
The words, "You can't touch me," neither did he. They landed in the peaceful Providence municipal courtroom, too laid back for a space that was built on consequence. Sloane Harwood sat at the defendant's table with her arms crossed and chin raised, looking bored. She observed Judge Frank Caprio with an unrelenting gaze, observing how a waiter might miscalculate their directives. He remained seated behind the bench, reading glasses on his nose, with his eyes fixed on the file in front of him. "Miss Harwood, this is a courtroom situation. We'll proceed with respect," she muttered between laughter and sighs. "My dad, Victor, I'm the father of yours. He contributes a significant amount of funds to this area. Perhaps I'll pay whatever fine we have." Caprio slowly turned to Paige, and his voice remained soft and even. "We don't skip anything here." Sloane adjusted her weight. "Okay, let's finish this. Time stamp 10:30 a.m. The clerk of M. Providence Municipal Court, Miss Reyes, read from the docket in case 2025 TR 9927, State v. Sloane Harwood. The charges against Sloane consist of driving recklessly, harassing a police officer, destroying an arrest warrant, and not showing up. His lawyer, Daniel Crest, stated that the charges will be resolved quickly. The defendants are in their mid-40s, wearing expensive clothes and carrying slouchy clothing that probably costs more than people's monthly rent. After a while, Caprio looked up. His gaze shifted from Crest to Sloane, then back to the file. Counselor, Crest paused and sat down. "If you're not paying attention to Judge Caprio's approach to justice, please tell us where you stand before the judge." Miss Harwood was given a traffic ticket 14 months ago, but Sloane shrugged at the time of the citation. "Not exactly." Miss Reyes moved a document across to the bench. Caprio then read out the warning on file 2024 TR 4103. "Everybody has a fair chance in this court. The next time you are here, that chance has been used. Your signature is listed at the bottom of the prior warning. Excerpt, I know it's not a perfect thing to be courteous about. The next offense will be reviewed full-fledged." Sloane looked back at her attorney. "Don't be surprised, right?" Caprio's hands were folded. He didn't think about it. She rolled her eyes. "I was tardy for a meeting, and I didn't feel like I heard anything." But Caprio's response was unremarkable. Officer Donnelly and Mr. Harold Simmons, the complainant, acknowledged Miss Reyes' act of clearing her throat. Sloane mumbled loudly, just enough to carry. Caprio's slight leaning caused her to look defiant. "This is insane," I said. "The reason for my sitting here is due to a bad day," as per Caprio, who argued that the person in question had committed an offense and attempted to erase it from his memory. Crest, the defendant, denies any wrongdoing. Caprio's tone remained unchanged, but it didn't seem to warm up. Instead, Crest sat down. Sloane lowered her head and declared, "I don't have anything to hide." Miss Reyes retrieved a copy of the document from the monitor. Miss Harwood texted a friend 2 hours after the citation was issued, and the screen was illuminated. A screenshot was taken. At 3:47 p.m. on November 8, 2024, Sloane was caught. My dad's financial support of half of this city should be acknowledged by these people. The courtroom did not respond to a single phone call. Some individuals in the audience moved to their seats. After experiencing a flush on Sloane's face, she quickly regained composure. Caprio asked, "Was that joke?" But the woman remained unresponsive, saying, "Officer Donnelly." "What happened that day?" Officer Mia Donnelly requested. She was in her mid-30s, composed, and had done this 100 times. However, she didn't uncover it on the witness stand. On November 8, 2024, I was stationed at the intersection of Broad and Elmwood in a school zone when I spotted this black Range Rover going at 53 mph in Zone 25. I pulled over. The vehicle came to rest in the pharmacy parking lot. Caprio nodded and proceeded to request a license and registration, while the defendant declined and provided her license. Donnelly looked at her notes and suggested that she wished to know who she was, but Sloane scoffed at the suggestion, and I opted for politeness, indicating that he didn't pay attention to her. I stated that speed limits in the vicinity of schools are mandatory. She retorted, "My father has half the buildings on this street, and you work for him whether you're aware or not. That's not a problem." Caprio raised his hand. Sloane ceased. Donnelly proceeded to issue the summons. She seized it, ripped it apart, and threw it on the ground. She returned to her car and departed. The body cam footage recorded on November 8, 2024, shows a time frame of 14 hours, 22 minutes, and 7 seconds. Is it necessary for you to accept the citation, Sloane Harwood? Donnelly, I'm going to be arrested. Good luck with that. Miss Harwood, it's heartbreaking that Caprio took off his glasses and rubbed his nose. She shrugged. It's just paper, right? The act of destroying government property and not complying was considered disrespectful. Donnelly nodded. Yes, you are honorable. As the defendant was leaving the lot, an elderly man was walking towards the pharmacy entrance. She sprinted past him within 2 ft and had to step back. I described the act as reckless. Is the name of the man, Harold Simmons, known? He was present today as Caprio looked towards the gallery. Please, Mr. Simmons, step forward with courage as an elderly man with a 78-year-old thin frame sat languidly in the middle of the road, dressed in an all-white jacket that featured an old veteran's pin on the hood. As he made his way to the stand, Caprio whispered, "What's up there?" His voice was soft as ever. I was leaving my car. As I walked towards the pharmacy, I heard an engine revving and saw a black SUV approaching, which made me feel like I had to jump back out sooner than I did before. I almost fell, but the driver didn't stop. She looked right at me and proceeded. Did she utter a word to me? Harold shook his head. Very well, Caprio remarked. She yelled at the window, called me slowly, and instructed me to move forward. Sloane leaned towards her attorney and whispered. Crest shook his head. The transcript revealed Officer Donnelly's report. Despite being shaken, Mr. Simmons was unharmed. The driver did not brake or admit to any intention during the collision. Caprio showed appreciation to Harold by asking him to remain a short distance from him. The older gentleman nodded and returned to his seat. Miss Harwood inquired, "Do you have any information about Mr. Simmons? I recall someone trespassing by as I was exiting the lot." "I didn't nearly hit him. That's too much of a stretch for me to handle," he stated, and the room became more and more cramped. Caprio glanced at Miss Reyes. What else was in the file? She retrieved another copy. Honor call log. What was the outcome of the 3 calls made to the clerk's office within the same week, with 2 of them coming from a registered number to Harwood Property Group, and the 3rd being from an attorney representing Victor Harwood? Miss Reyes read from the screen. The initial caller inquired about the case's status, while another person asked if it could be resolved quietly due to her family size. A 3rd person offered to settle the charges as a parking violation. Caprio's face remained unaffected, but the silence added weight. Moreover, Miss Reyes retrieved an email excerpt. On behalf of the Harwood family, we respectfully request a peaceful resolution to the subject case T, filed by the Council of Providence. This case would be beneficial for both parties involved. If you hold the belief that nobody is above the law, you already have the answers. Caprio glanced at Sloane. Were you aware of these calls? She changed her mind. My father was attempting to assist by manipulating it, but not in my courtroom. Sloane's jaw cleaved. The way you treat me as if I'm a criminal is alarming. I was driving too fast. You risked the life of a 78-year-old veteran, tainted an officer, destroyed an affidavit, and attempted to use money and power to eliminate responsibility. Caprio's voice remained tranquil. However, every utterance landed. Not everyone is on board. She straightened up. Your checks are under my dad's signature, and there was no one in the room but you, Caprio said. A time duration of 5 seconds is followed by 7. The room remained frozen for a certain period of time. He proceeded to speak quietly. Your father abstains from signing anything presented in court, but I'll show you what he signed, and nodded while addressing Miss Reyes. She uncovered another file. Officer Donnelly and Caprio both mentioned that they had lost their home 2 years ago. Is that accurate? The look on Donnie's face flickered for a moment. Yes, you are honoring her. The foreclosure was managed by Harwood Capital Recovery, the company of Victor Harwood. Sloane appeared to be in pain. I didn't ask you to confirm anything. Caprio went on to say, I'm only stating this. Miss Harwood's father, who is employed by his company, just happened to be here today and said you work for him. Donnelly stated that her hands on the stand were still, while Sloane opened her mouth and closed it. Caprio leaned back. "You told me not to touch you, Miss Harwood," she said. "You're mistaken, but everyone is impacted by the law. It either has to be enforced or there's no benefit. Confirm the log timeline. Call the clerk's office at 8:16 and 10:22 a.m. on November 8th and 20th, respectively. Harwood Legal is summoned to court admin. Number 15 at 4:10 p.m. at 12 noon. An email was sent out disclosing settlement terms. No, 16:93 a.m. The bank transfer was flagged and denied. With a pen in hand, Caprio jotted down the information on the document. He then looked up. "I discovered that you were driving recklessly in school. You harassed a police officer, smashed government property, failed to show up for your original court hearing, and attempted to use your family's wealth and prestige to evade punishment." The fact that Sloane's voice has shifted to a smaller size suggests that you are guilty on all charges. Crest stood up. "Our request is for you to honor that. Sit down," and Crest sits as Caprio went on. "The minimum fine for these offenses is $1,150, but I'm curious if you can comprehend what you've done wrong." "I do." Sloane admitted to almost hurting someone, disrespecting an officer at work, and attempting to sell yourself because you believed your name was untouchable, but he didn't see it as the issue. "You didn't think you understood." Caprio laid the pen down. "The fine remains, but half of it will be suspended until you move forward with a restorative accountability route." According to Crest, Miss Harwood intends to send a formal apology letter to Officer Donnelly and Mr. Simmons. Her plan is to engage in 150 hours of community service to support mobility groups, including Mr. Simmons, and to create 2 public service announcements that argue that wealth does not equate to authority. Additionally, she will complete a judicial ethics course and write a 900-word essay on equal treatment under the law. Sloane opened his mouth. "I'm not taking this matter any further." Caprio approached Miss Reyes. "This court is in the process of establishing an influence firewall protocol. To communicate with court staff regarding pending cases, it is necessary to document and report any attempts to reach them. Any settlement offers made outside of normal channels triggers an escalation review. Today, the procedure for the compliance ledger case 2025 TR 9927 has been initiated. The officer responsible for this case, Donnelly Mr. Simmons, must complete a 150-hour mobility service, complete 2 PSA recordings, and submit an essay within 10 weeks. Crest whispered to her, and she shook her head. Miss Harwood, Caprio stated that if you fail to complete the program within 10 weeks, you will be fined half of the amount, and the case is closed. If you don't comply, the full amount will apply, and you'll face additional penalties. "Do you comprehend?" She nodded cautiously. "I comprehend. Good, we'll meet in 10 weeks. The court paused. The gavel proceeded smoothly. The first 48 hours were a letdown. Sloane wrote an apology letter to Officer Donnelly, which was rejected by Miss Reyes within an hour. The letter was 3 sentences long and included the phrase, "If you felt disrespected." The second draft wasn't as good as the first, and she replied with an additional note. "An apology acknowledges harm, not feelings." Despite rewriting it 6 times, Sloane felt a strange sense of relief. She was uncertain about whether she was relieved or ashamed when Miss Reyes gave her approval. The service hours were more challenging. She reported to the East Providence Senior Mobility Center on a Tuesday morning. The coordinator, Mrs. Pascio, gave her the clipboard and name tag. "Help with transportation pickups and walking support. Stay in close proximity to your assigned senior and listen attentively." Jean, 81, was matched with Sloane, who used a walker and made fun of his knees. On the first day, she sat silently. The second morning, Jean questioned why she was there and replied with a smile, "Maybe it's for school." By week 4, I know she stopped lying. The first 6 weeks saw the rejection of the first apology letter, while the second one was rejected during service hours. During week 3, the final letter was given out, and during week 4, they started drafting the script for hour 34. The first PSA recorded required a recording of hour 52. In week 6, their ethics course was finished. At the center, Jean was introduced to other veterans, including Harold Simmons, while the essay was being worked on. Hours 71. On a Thursday, Sloane saw him when she crossed the room. He appeared smaller and older, and he was sitting by the window with naughty books. She walked over slowly. Mr. Simmons glanced upward. Recognition arrived progressively. Subsequently, he changed his expression, not incensed, just cautious. "Yes, I'm Sloane Harwood, and I almost hit you in the parking lot." Harold put the book down. "I'm sorry I wasn't paying attention to that," she remarked. The tone was unsteady. "This hurts you a lot." "I've been thinking about it for weeks, and now I need to say it face to face." Harold took a deep breath and nodded. "Relax," she sat. He inquired, "What's your reason for being here?" "Judge Caprio opted for me to either pay a fine or leave and pursue my education." "I'm gaining knowledge." Harold's smile was faint, which is a good thing. During a 20-minute conversation, he disclosed his service to her and the fact that his wife had already passed away 3 years prior to the conversation. They discussed his regular pharmacy visits. Sloane listened attentively and felt lighter when she left that day. By week 8, she had completed 130 hours. The essay took her longer than anticipated. She had to reword the introduction 4 times, finding it difficult to express her thoughts. Why does the law apply to everyone, even when it's difficult? On a Sunday night, she submitted it. The following day, Miss Reyes contacted and it was accepted. Sloane reacted by exhaling, "Thank you." Miss Reyes mentioned that Officer Donnelly had left a note for you, saying, "You arrived." The adoption of the Providence Municipal Courts Influence Firewall Protocol in March 2025 has resulted in the recording and review of all external case inquiries. The disclosure of donor contact information is mandatory. 3 other municipalities have also requested the framework. The follow-up hearing was scheduled for late March. Sloane entered the same courtroom, but this time she didn't cross her arms. Standing with her hands at her sides, she waited. Caprio entered and took his seat. Miss Reyes confirmed that everything had been completed. Letters were delivered, hours were completed, PSAs recorded, and an essay was submitted. After finishing the program, Caprio asked Miss Harwood if she felt better about the situation. "I am now cognizant that my actions were more than just flouting a regulation. They were also revealing that it didn't matter much to others." Caprio slurped back. "The court acknowledges you're finished with the fine. You get through rehab." He paused. "I want you to recall that the individuals you encountered over the course of 10 weeks, including Jean, Mr. Simmons, and Officer Donnelly, were oblivious to your impact. You made the right decision, but then made a decision to fix it. The second option is crucial." Sloane's throat grew tighter. "Thank you for your honor. You're all welcome. The case is now closed." As the gavel came down, Sloane exited the courtroom and spotted Harold Simmons standing near the door. He nodded in agreement. Outside, the marching air was chilly but not suffocating. Sloane drew her coat and began to walk. A city was in motion behind her. Law enforcement officials were writing tickets, clerks were filing paperwork, and judges were hearing cases. The system was no longer interested in names and bank accounts as it was supposed to be. If you still believe in fairness, you should subscribe to the newsletter. Officer Donnelly received a letter in the mail 3 months later, which had no return address. The inside contained a solitary sentence that was handwritten. "Thank you for standing by me." She held it up on the board above her desk. Judge Frank Caprio then opened the next file in the courtroom, changed his glasses, and uttered the same words as he always did. "Let's proceed. This is a dramatization that was created for educational and narrative purposes only. The characters, events, and institutions featured in this content are fictional and not intended as legal advice.